Morning, TJ.
Good morning.
You talked about the getting back to the physical, competitive practices after the Oklahoma State game. Just wondering kind of what's your philosophy on, at this point in the season, balancing the keeping guys fresh versus the necessity to keep practices physical?
Yeah, I guess most of it wasn't by our choice, but a lot of our guys have had different, whether it's been an injury, an illness, or things that they've dealt with, that have got them some opportunities to get some of that rest. When you enter into March and you have a lot of program pride and you hate to lose and you have so much to play for and so much in front of you, it's important that you only do things one way. And so for us, when we go, it's full gas. And when we're off, we're off. When we're out on the court, everything we do is one way. It's dictate the basketball, turn people over, everything that we do, rebound, all the effort-based physical things that we need to do, and then you only do it one way and it shows up for you in the game. And so I know there's a lot of talk last week about, it's not like we've changed how we practice, it's just that we've rededicated to understanding that we need all hands on deck and everybody has to do things one way. And if you're a competitor, you find ways around whatever personally may be plaguing you at that moment, and you find a way to be out there. And our guys are very competitive, and we know that they're going to find ways to be out there no matter what.
And then like on Saturday, is there a moment, maybe in warm-ups or during the game, where you realize, hey, like, you know, I think we brought it today. I think we have the necessary toughness today?
Yeah, I'd say I'll always be a believer of what happens in practice will carry over to the game. So I know what practice looked like on Thursday and Friday, and so I had a pretty good feeling of how it was going to look come Saturday based on how we did things. And so, there wasn't really like a moment in the game or a time in the game. Certainly, I think for us, when we can, control the paint, when we can be physical on the basketball and we can dictate things, that's contagious, just like shooting and passing and some of the skill things. And I felt like our physicality defensively and our defensive intent was as good as it's been in a long time. And as a result, we set the tone. I felt like the first 10 minutes defensively was as good as we could play on that end and against a really good offensive team. So when you set the tone for that during the game based on what you've done in practice, now you've just got to carry it forward for 40 minutes.
Seems like talked all season about one of the big improvements Milan's made is his activity level, the way he moves, even when he doesn't have the basketball, he's not in position to shoot. Seemed like that was on full display, maybe at its highest form at Houston. We ran the floor like he did, but we're seeing that more and more in flashes, certainly on Saturday as well. What can you say about does that coincide with, his physical development, maturity, or canniness, or how is it coming to him? Because it seems to really have helped him in multiple ways.
I think even though the injury, as unfortunate as it was, I think that puts you in a spot where you watch it. I think you for all of us, and when you miss it to the extent, nobody puts more into their game than Milan does, right? The work that he puts in, the time that he puts in, he loves basketball, he loves to work on his game, he's a competitor. I think when you sit out, you get to see things and the game slows down for you. And then you probably, have some self-dialogue and say, when I get back out there, these are going to be the things that I do and how I do them. And so, it may not be instantaneous because you're still trying to get back in game shape and all those things. But what we've seen from him upon his return is a much higher degree of defensive activity, a lot more physicality and intent on the glass. I view even fouls for him as a positive, right? We don't want fouls being out of position or cheap ones,
Sure.
But that's a sign of him bringing physical things. You bring those things physically on one end of the court, which he did against Houston, he did against Arizona, against very physical teams, and now your offense is going to be physical. You're going to cut physical, you're going to get into your shot physical, you're going to accept screens physically, you're going to finish physically, and so then his offensive performances are more, what we expect or what we know that he can do. And I think sometimes you develop a mindset of, if I play really hard and physical on defense, do I have anything left for offense? And I think when you realize, actually, when I play really hard and physical on defense, that makes the offense easier because I'm playing to the rhythm of the game. That's what Milan's doing, and he's playing at a really, really high level. I've been really impressed this last week or 10 days because it's every day in practice and it's showing up in the game, and that's great to see.
what makes BYU's offense challenging to defend?
Yeah, I mean, number one, Denham with the basketball at his size, at 6'9" or whatever he is, as a playmaker, facilitator, that's a unique endeavor for sure. The shooting and spacing, probably the only team in the league with two guys that are, mid-40s type 3-point shooters that get high volume, and then also guys that come off the bench and in the rotation that you always have to honor and respect. So I think that's one thing with them that you have to factor into the equation, is how well they shoot the basketball. And then, look, they're a lot of times, they've got older guys, they've got experienced veteran guys they know how to find ways to win. And you don't win 6 in a row in this league without having that type of experience. So I think all those things are showing up, and Saunders is playing at about as high a level as anybody is in the conference right now in terms of shooting the ball, making big plays for them late, just competing.
Seems like teams that, and obviously they're just good offensively, but that can space it, shoot it, and pass it is uniquely difficult for the way you guys play defense. How do you try to counteract that?
Yeah, I think it's important that your transition defense has to be really good, and that starts with, can't have high ball turnovers, can't have runouts on long rebounds and things along those lines, because if you give them the advantage right away, it's hard to gain it back in the defensive possession. But if you do a great job with your offensive possessions and you get your transition defense set, I still say best on best, I'll take our defense, right, when we can get ourselves in that position. But if you're not, if you're not as tough with the ball, or if some of the shots you take in your intent transition defense and getting the ball stopped isn't as good, then you end up behind a possession, and they keep the ball on the move. They're not going to bring it back out and set it up. They're going to make you pay for that. So I think it's having that stubborn toughness of the possessions we have and what we do offensively, and then as we go from offense to transition defense, that we get locked in so the ball has to stop and they have to set something up, as opposed to the ball staying on the move and we're trying to catch up.
TJ, what do you have to say about the emotions of senior night as a head coach? It feels like you focus on one day at a time, and then all of a sudden you're saluting your seniors for one last game at home.
Yeah, no, it's we appreciate so much what the young men in our program do every single day, how they work, the choices they make. We hold them to a high standard, and they step up, and that's not just on the court. We're very demanding off the court, community and classroom, the things that they do as well. And so much respect for the guys that do that work every single day, and the impact that they have on our program, the pride that they have. And I mean, I thought it was really cool the other night for them to see George and Tyrese, like little kids. You could see them over there saying, man, I wish I could play here again. I wish I had these days back. This is so special. And that's from guys who are having, tremendous success at the highest level. So I think for our guys, to really appreciate and lock into the last opportunity for everybody this season to play at Hilton, and for those that don't have any more eligibility, to save their best for last. And that doesn't mean you're going to make every shot, but there's something that says we just left it on the floor. Every ounce, every drop of sweat, everything that we gave, we left it on the floor, and that's what we're going to aim to do tomorrow.
On Saturday, I think you were asked a little bit about Keshon. I think you started over 4 or 5 times his last 4 or 5 games or thereabout. When you evaluate those, what are you kind of seeing in some of his struggles?
Well, Keshon, the majority of the big wins we've had over the last 2 years have been, spearheaded by Keshon and his terrific play, his ability to get in the paint, to get downhill, to get us in transition. For us, we have to do a better job as a team, whether it's turning people over, finishing plays on the glass, because our team is best in transition, and Keshon is certainly best in transition. And I do think teams are making a more concerted effort to get defenses set. Ultimately, I trust Keshon. I believe in Keshon. I know what he can do. I've seen it I started recruiting him, a long time ago, probably, 6 years ago. And so I know what he can do, and I know what he's capable of. And so regardless of what's happened up to this point, I know that he's a tremendous decision maker, playmaker, lives in the paint and downhill. And so instead of say, hey, this is what happened or what's happening here, we're going to continue to trust his instincts, can trust his playmaking skills, and his ability to make those reads and those plays, because I do think that's what makes him special.
In terms of finishing at the rim, how have you seen him kind of evolve across the season this season?
Yeah, I mean, there's not guards that when they get to the rim that finish like he does. I mean, his ability to finish with both hands is tremendous. You know, I think teams with jump walls, similar to what we do and coming over, you know, they're committing more defenders to the paint. So there's times you have to pick your spot, whether that is to kick it out to a shooter on the perimeter, or if you have a clear path or an angle to finish the play. But I think in terms of getting there, when he gets there, there's nobody that finishes as well as he does as a guard with right hand, left hand, 1 foot, 2 feet. He's got all of it. So we got to do a great job getting him there. And then when, you know, he senses multiple defenders, you know, he's got to do a great job making the read, making the play.
TJ, it feels like this game against BYU has some added stakes with possible seeding for the Big 12 tournament. Is that something you're looking at all for this one?
I look at our guys have good practice today. Our guys play as well as they can play tomorrow. We're at the highest standard, the most pride, the most physical toughness together, all those things. All the other stuff takes care of itself. Whatever that is, whether it's seeding, ranking, tournament, this, that, all that stuff takes care of itself. There's only one thing that we have control over, and that's how we practice today and how physical and how tough we play for one another tomorrow. And we're going to keep our focus on controlling the things that we can't control.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, TJ.